Hello everyone, my name is Adam Gronwald and I am the current president of the Student Government Association. Traditionally, we host an annual debate between the president and vice presidential candidates. Unfortunately, this year we only have one ticket, so we've opted instead to shoot a question and answer session with our ticket. Questions were not given to the candidates in advance, and they've only been given one opportunity to respond. Likewise, the editing of today's video will be fairly limited, and only the empty space between questions will be removed.
Our candidates will get a minute to introduce themselves, and then we'll ask them individual questions in which they'll get a minute and a half to respond.
Following the individual questions, both candidates will be asked a series of joint questions and they will be given 2 minutes to respond.
Now for our candidates, please introduce yourselves. I'm Haley DeGreve, running for Student Government President.
And I'm Carl Frasor, running for Student Government Vice President.
And if elected, we promise that we will at least try our best to listen to every concern that you have, every issue. We know that things might not always be perfect and we can't solve every issue, but we do promise that we will try our best. And you can depend on us. We will be resilient through any obstacle that's in our way. And like I said, we'll promise to understand you and to listen to you with all your concerns and your questions that you might have. So we're here for you through servant leadership.
Why are you running for president of Student Government Association?
That's a great question. I'm running for president because I feel a need to do this. I've been so passionate about student government, especially this year. I feel like I really found a new role within the organization, and I've learned so much with leadership and how I can improve and even just engagement with students. So I really want to see this organization take off, and it's already grown so much this year, but I really want to see a little bit more from senators. I want to see more from students. So I think that I can lead that charge, and I think that I have the skills to do that. So that's why I'm running, because I have the confidence in myself, and I think that I'm the one that can do this really well.
How has your experience as Secretary for Student Government prepared you to serve as Vice President next year?
Well, in my role as Secretary, I kind of oversee the senators and make sure they're getting done what the organization expects of them, whether that be campus hours and reaching out to students, or whether it be getting things done within their committees. And it's prepared me to take on this new role as Vice President, if elected, and be able to kind of transform how the organization operates, to break down committees that aren't working and have one core committee that breaks out so that if an issue arises on campus, we can better stop what we're doing in one issue and move on to the next one. And also kind of redeveloping how we reach out to the students. So having pop-up advocacy tables to where instead of expecting the students to come to us, where we'll take our senators and go to you and find out what the important issues are and be able to help you better that way.
And so why are you running for Vice President and not President, despite you having more experience as a member of the Executive Board?
Well, even though you have experience as an executive board member, it doesn't mean that you're always prepared to take a giant leap. Taking on the role of vice president and having someone who I'm confident will be able to do all the things that we've set out to do is a role that I feel better suited for at the moment. So going forward, there could be possibilities for us to have other people who have exec board roles in their past and have new people get onto the executive board, so that way there's new people who can bring new ideas.
Haley, you have become an outspoken voice for mental health on Augustana's campus through your Gray Matters campaign. If elected, what changes do you plan on advocating for at Augustana to improve mental health other than steps being taken currently, such as the upcoming expansion of counseling services and the development of the campus clinic?
So I think that those tactical things are really great, but I think the success that I've seen with the Gray Matters movement anyways is that students really want more awareness. They want more, let's start this conversation. They want more, just ability to talk about this in the free open air. So I think moving forward, and I've talked to administrators about this already, is what kind of events can we hold? How can we continue this conversation that allows students to really speak up about mental health and become advocates themselves? I know that, the administration has already reached out to certain groups in the Quad Cities, like the Robert Young Center, bringing them into the campus and doing mental health service training, which I think is incredible. So if we can continue to do things like that, I think it would be great to get students to become more leader focused within this, and then also if they're struggling themselves to start talking about it more with their friends and their family, and obviously with the new expansions with the counseling department to make sure that there's more transparency between students and the counseling department.
One of your platform pieces is advocating for diversity, equity, and inclusion. What concrete plans do you have to work for these ideals?
So some of the concrete plans that we have are to make ourselves more available to the students. So having town hall meetings, kind of refunctioning, taking the idea of the Senate and applying it to different groups. So having a group of students who are selected by either the multicultural groups or any other group on campus who can come in and talk to us about the issues that they're specifically facing. It gives us a chance to maybe reach out to groups who we wouldn't otherwise see unless they're coming in to do a contingency or something like that. Making sure that we're available to all students, as well as kind of Haley is in a role with Dr. Monica Smith to where she has the ability to implement some of our ideas on a broader scale to affect all students. Something that's always been discussed through SGA is kind of making sure that students who come for their welcome week, if they're international students or they're doing the PACE program, that they're better able to adjust once everyone else is here, and making sure that they're welcome on campus and have that campus unity there to kind of support them and make sure that everybody feels included.
The Election Committee of Augustana recently redrafted the election code of SGA to include repercussions for inappropriate behavior during the campaign season, make Augustana elections more similar to state and national elections, and limit the impact that internal politics of SGA have on the election itself. These changes were approved by the Student Senate. In an article published by the Augustana Observer, you critiqued the changes, stating it didn't work as well as the election committee thought, and that it may inhibit the democratic nature of elections. Do you stand by your comment, and if so, what must be changed?
I do stand by my comment, just because I think it's okay to be critical about things, especially new innovative ideas. I think that's important. But at the same time, I think Carl and I both can speak for this, that we would have liked to have seen more opposition with this campaign, just because I think it's important to be challenged. And with this new amendment, I only thought that it was creating a little bit more of an obstacle for people to jump into the race, even though the idea of it was to get more people involved. So I think that this new amendment has potential for sure, but I definitely do feel that we need to continue to be more transparent about it, to have more communication around the new amendment so that people are aware of it, so that they are aware that they have to have 300 signatures before jumping in. So I do stand by my statement, but I also think that there are better ways to communicate it. I think that it has potential. So I think moving forward that it's something that we just need to work harder on and getting people more aware of it.
Now that you've been through the process, is there anything concrete that you would change now?
I don't think so, honestly. I think the experience with the signatures was a lot better than we initially thought it would be, just because, going and kind of putting a face to, hey, we're going to run kind of thing. But I do think that the only thing I would change is not being able to really talk about platform, because it would be considered campaigning, so which we totally understand that. But I think, it rubs wrong to students when they ask, what's your platform? And you say, oh, I'm sorry, I can't talk about that yet. So maybe if we could kind of rephrase that or think about that more openly.
All right, Carl, due to changes in the structure of this year's election, you and Haley have not yet announced a ticket for your executive board. What are your intentions for appointing students to these positions?
Something that we do plan on doing is making sure that we have strong leaders on our team who can go into any situation and attack it and be able to come out with an outcome. Especially looking at our chief of staff position, it's going to be essential to have someone who's a strong leader who will be able to oversee the operation of the rotating committee, which is one of the only committees that would remain if we were elected. They would oversee people who would break off into the committee chairs for all of the other committees for whatever kind of problems they're trying to attack. So we need dedicated leaders on our team, and we are confident that we will find people who are leaders and who will be able to help us to the best of their ability.
And how are you looking to find a diverse group of people to serve on your executive board?
We're looking at people who we are confident in, who, if we're looking at people within SGA, we would be looking at people who have good attendance, who are always at meetings, actively communicating within SGA, because those are the people who would leave SGA and be on the exec board, who would be able to bring ideas into us, people who are getting done campus hours and things like that. And also, if we're looking outside of SGA, it's people who aren't afraid to kind of jump in and get their hands dirty, because even being a senator last year, moving into an exec board position is a big jump and it takes a lot of time. So dedicated leaders is what we're definitely looking to fill our board with.
What aspects of your agenda are you most excited to implement?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'm really excited about the Campus Unity one. This past year being on Wellness Committee, I feel like we've made a lot of good strides because that's another platform point. But I think at times our campus can be so divided, and I feel like there are a lot of people on this campus who feel like they don't have a voice. And my grandpa and my uncle, they both were senators here, and the main reason that they always said they were senators is because they wanted to give people a voice who felt like they didn't have one. And so that's really what I'm most excited about, is finding out who feels like they don't have a voice and how can we continue to be the echo for them? How can we better advocate for them? So we talked about going into different areas of the campus and having different advocacy groups and start talking to students who maybe don't understand how student government works and get them more involved in that, I think is essential. So I really would like to see more unity within even just the different multicultural groups, having a bigger group come together and talk about the issues that are going on, because I do think there are issues that just get swept under the rug, and when you sweep things under the rug, it only makes for a bumpy floor. So I really would like to see a little bit more discussion about the hard topics, and especially learning to listen and understand those so we can keep moving forward and learn how to advocate better.
The college's Title IX task force recently concluded their work, finding that generally speaking, Augustana is in compliance with laws related to Title IX. Likewise, they have changed some of the procedures surrounding how cases are handled. What are the next steps and what more can be done to protect students?
Well, the next steps are looking at what the new Department of Education policy is going to be regarding Title IX and how the school is going to comply not only with the state laws regarding it, but also with the national laws that may be implemented. So it's going to kind of take another task force to look at what's going to be most effective at a school like ours and how we're going to better be able to support the people who are complainants in these issues. And also looking at the steps after you go through filing a complaint and kind of if the person who has been accused is not accused by Title IX, how the school is going to step in and make sure that they're still protecting complainants, whether that be moving them from one class to another, or figuring out what the best option is for the complainant and the respondent to make sure that at Augustana they are still able to get an education and feel safe.
Both of you are heavily involved on campus. How will you be able to balance your duties as president with your other commitments and endeavors?
I love this question. So something that I love about my many experiences that I am involved with right now especially is that I've learned so much about what it means to do little things and make big impact in that way. So I'm definitely learning to cut down on things, and I'm definitely learning at the same time with moving hopefully into this next role how I'm going to be able to make time for that. So I've already taken steps towards that and preparing for that if that's the case. But at the same time, this is something that would be a priority to me. This is something that I'm passionate about. And I think when you have passion behind anything, you make that a priority in your life, no matter what's in the way. So I truly feel like I'm the one for this job. I feel like I can help students and understand them better. So the way to do that is to be there physically and to listen and to try to understand. So I'm hoping that I can at least give it my best shot and to work as hard as I can. And I think if I can do that, then that'll be the best option for us.
Reflecting a recent study conducted by Southern Illinois University in which students voluntarily responded, Augustana College appears to have some of the highest rates of drug and alcohol consumption and abuse regionally. Is this an issue in your eyes? And if so, what concrete plans do you have to address this?
Well, so if I'm remembering the study correctly, the average is 12% of people who abuse alcohol while at college, and Augustana sadly ranks at 19%. So it definitely is an issue on this campus with alcohol abuse. But we can't go out there and just say, no more drinking. It's not something that would be welcomed by a majority of students. So the idea is to kind of more focus on making sure we're making people aware of being smart when they're consuming alcohol, regulating the amount that they're consuming, making sure they're staying safe to protect themselves. Also, when it comes to drug abuse, there is set policy at the school regarding drugs and alcohol violations. So it's kind of hard for the school to enforce those, but if the school is actively looking to enforce those more, they will find support, because we do want to make Augustana safer for everybody who's here. Whether you choose to consume alcohol or not, you do impact people who make the other choice. So
So do you think the policies that the school currently has are working or not so much?
The policies that the school currently has relies more on CAs and the consumption of alcohol and drugs within dorm rooms. And when a student leaves those areas, it's harder for a CA to kind of monitor that. So it's going to take cooperation throughout the school and how they run those policies and oversee them. It's something where SGA can kind of go out and say that, like, this is what you should do if you're ever in an unsafe situation, but a lot of it will come down to res life and how they decide to move forward and enforce these policies.
Every year, the Student Government Association feels like it becomes a completely different organization, which reflects its leadership. What initiatives of Vice President Hartman and President Gronwald do you wish to change, and what do you hope to continue?
Do you want to start?
So one of the things that we definitely want to continue is making sure that senators get recognized for the work that they're doing within the organization. There are definitely students in the organization who are making the steps to go out there and do what they're supposed to do as a senator and provide for the rest of the students at Augustana. And we want to make sure that we're recognizing those people for the things that they're doing. Kind of leaving off that, though, is the idea of kind of breaking down the Senate and rebuilding it to something that we think will be more efficient. Now, if that doesn't work, there's always ways to go back to the old setting of having committees, but we're looking to kind of revamp it and make sure that it's built specifically around serving the students and not serving the needs of SGA.
And I think at the same time, I think something that President Gronwald and Vice President Hartman have done really well this year is they've really kind of pushed administration in a different way about providing some better transparency with students. So whether that be, tuition increase, how can we better communicate that? I think there are some things that they've really challenged administration on, and I think that's awesome. So I would love to continue that and to make sure that we are continuing to be that voice and that bridge between students and administration, because I think they both have done a fantastic job at that. So I'm hoping we can continue that and to continue to use our voices and not back down when it gets tough.
Every year, candidates regularly make a push on behalf of diversity but seem to come up short in the eyes of many Augustana students of color. In your eyes, where does the organization fall short in advocating for these students?
I think where we fall short is that sometimes I think in student government, people are so complacent and they just think that, it's students' jobs to come to us. And I think that when we're speaking about diversity, that's not always going to work. I think that we need to make sure that we are going to those different groups, even the smaller groups. They matter too. So I really, something that Carl and I have talked about is going to different groups that maybe we might not hear about all the time. Specifically, I feel like a lot of multicultural groups that aren't being heard, go to them specifically, say, what are the issues? What are the problems? How can we serve you? And, listen to what they have to say. And in addition to that, start talking, getting more involved with the senators and the students. So next year, something that I'm on Dr. Smith's Inclusion Commission, and something that we're looking at next year is continuing sustained dialogue and talking about things like racism and sexual assault at times. So I would love to see more senators engage in things like that and showing up and talking about student government within those those standards, because I think that's important for students to know that student government is engaged and that we are willing to work with you and for you.
And another thing to add to that is that sometimes we don't understand the issues that are important to them because we don't have those same issues. So whether it be earlier this year when one of the student groups came in looking for funding for Ubers so they could go to a retreat, the senators decided not to kind of fund that, but it's because maybe they don't understand that those students didn't have cars, especially for international students who don't even have driver's license. Making sure that we're still finding ways to support them and understanding that their differences are more than ours.
So some of the things that you guys mentioned are already in place, such as sustained dialogue and or reaching out to these groups. Is there anything that you're working on attempting that hasn't been currently done or in place?
I think with the student advocacy groups, like we've talked about, going to physically actually getting a group of senators together and go to different groups each week. I think that's super important. And in addition, we've heard, just in my conversations with students, we have heard that there seems to be a little bit of separation from the different multicultural groups on campus, because it seems like Dr. Monica Smith has her office and then there's MPB, and it's just like, if we can get everyone together and, whether we facilitate this or not, getting everyone together and just start talking about the issues in the open air and learning how we can go to administration about things. And if there needs to be a policy that needs to be put in place, then we can work on that. But definitely, I think getting everyone together and start talking about it, that's kind of one thing that we've been thinking about.
If you could change one thing about Augustana, what would it be and why?
That's a really good question. I think something that I personally have had an issue with as a student myself is, to me, it seems like there isn't enough communication between administration and students, specifically on even just things like snow days. I mean, I understand that we have to wait to hear about these things, but I think if we could just get some kind of update from administration, I think would just even go a long way just for the students. So I think that if we can work with the administration on even just like wording and emails and things like that to kind of create better communication between the two parties, I think that would be awesome.
Also, making sure that we're putting the right information out there, making sure that the information is as clear as it can be. So telling people what kind of new items are in place, or what kind of new administrators we have, and how that increases people's tuitions, or where their student fees get distributed to, because the student fees are large and you do notice them, but you don't exactly understand where they're going to. So making sure that it's clear to students how their money's being spent.
What is the role of student government at Augustana in relation to national politics? Do you believe Augustana is adequately ensuring diversity on campus, especially in regards to political views? What more specifically do you believe Augustana must do to ensure that the loudest voice doesn't become the only voice?
That is an awesome question. I personally feel like the school is trying at least to create more diversity and inclusion on this campus. I really do. But I think, especially in regards to the political beliefs, I think that there are a lot of people who definitely feel a little out of place. I've seen it in the classroom. I've seen it just on campus in general. So I personally feel like I would like to see a little bit more celebration of our differences. We talk about that a lot, but I don't know if we actually put that in place. So I think that, if we're talking about the liberal arts education and actually listening and having, different perspectives, that we do need to start listening to the people who are very different from us. And how we do that is, I'm not really sure how we're going to do that, but I think that the best way to do it is to continue to have events and to continue to speak about these things openly, whether it be town halls, sustained dialogue, starting up those things and giving students the opportunity to voice their opinions, and also teaching students how to listen to understand, not just to reply.
Yeah, and another thing to go off that is making sure that when students do talk about something that might not be what a majority of the campus thinks, making sure that they're not getting attacked or singled out for it. There have been a few instances of that, and that's something that their beliefs are their beliefs, and it's not our place to change them, and we're here to support them. We are a campus community, and we claim to be a campus community, and I believe we are, so we need to support each other. We can't let some differences get between us. So,
And in relation to all of that, what do you think the role of student government in Augustana is in relation to national politics?
I think that we are of service to the people. So, for example, one of the things in our platform is united we stand, divided we fall. And I feel like if students are having an issue, and personally I don't feel like as senators we've done a good enough job of going out and seeking the issues as real politicians do. But in addition to that, I would love to see more students come to the meetings and talk about the things that are happening. As students, you have the right to demand that we work on something, if there's an issue, you have the right to demand that we look into this. And if we aren't doing our job and we're not holding up our end of the bargain, then that's on us. And so I personally feel like, in regards to national politics, I want to see us understand each other a little bit more. I want to see us work together as a team and not just focus so much on the differences, but the similarities.
So in regards to national politics as well, should Augustana or student government be making a stand on where we stand on specific national policy issues?
I'm going to go ahead with that one and say there is not a reason for student government to jump in and say where we stand on national policies unless it's regarding things that are going to directly impact our students, such as Title IX and the changes that they're making to that, because that affects our campus community as a whole. Obviously, Augustana made the decision to support Dreamers with DACA when that whole conversation was going on. So there are times where it feels right as a community to support each other, but it's not our place to tell you what you need to believe or how you believe it to be. It's our place to make sure that you feel supported on campus. Well, first off, we would like to say thank you for allowing us to answer your questions and have a conversation with you, not only regarding our platform and regarding who we are, but being able to speak for you for one of the first times. We would like to make sure that this is only the first phase and that we're going to be taking steps towards servant leadership, going to you to answer your questions, not just answering them now, but answering them hopefully all the way through next year, to make sure that we're providing you with the best experience at Augustana.
Yeah, if Carl and I are elected, one of the things that we really want to make sure that's very transparent is that we are here to serve you. And if there's anything that ever comes up or any issue that you feel strongly about, please come and see us. If not, we're going to be coming to see you. So thank you so much for tuning in. And, our slogan is here to act and here to change. And those might seem like really simple words, but we're not taking those lightly. And we promise you that we're going to be thinking of new innovative ideas. We're going to be thinking about how we can be more committed to the students and to this entire school in general. So we are one Augustana community, and we're here to work for you. We're here to fight for you. One goal, one team, one mission. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for watching this question and answer session with our candidates. If you have any more questions for the candidates, feel free to follow up with them individually or reach out to the student government email account. Thank you very much and have a nice day.